in 3 words. The best stories.
What are some of the best things going on right now?
The best stories are authentic.
They are relevant.
Thought-provoking.
Emotional is probably the first
The best
one for me.
stories are humorous.
Shareable.
They
I think
are
emotional.
entertaining.
They're unique.
I would say
relevant.
inspiring,
Honest.
real
Colorful,
stories that are for today.
And
Just
they're
take-
emotional.
Those are some of the best stories.
Hello, storytellers. Cheers to you all, and welcome to our monthly live stream produced by Tagboard, but more importantly, powered by all of you. We are back at it again with another very special storyteller and friend of the program. But first, a quick introduction. I'm Sky Muller. Go ahead, find me on Twitter at SkySPX.
And I'm Michelle Ledka-Furbush. You can find me on Twitter as well, at Michelle Ledka. And the goal of today isn't just to highlight the awesome stories from our guests, but it's also to engage with all of you. So please interact with us in the LinkedIn chat or on the Twitter thread. Let us know where you're watching from, what you're thinking, and maybe which supporters group you represent in Major League Soccer.
Our storyteller today is Salt Lake till they die, but his career started in broadcast news, where he worked in news and sports at local affiliates in Idaho and Utah before taking a job with MLS club Real Salt Lake.
Yes, back in Idaho is where Tyler and my paths first crossed. Full transparency, today's guest is one of my nearest and dearest friends. But aside from what a fantastic human he is, he's made quite the impressive career for himself as well since leaving TV. He joined Real Salt Lake in 2015 and has moved up the ladder deservingly quick, holding positions from director of media production to VP of broadcast to now vice president of marketing and game presentation. This new role includes overseeing all social media, video, digital content, graphics, broadcasting, in-stadium presentation, you name it, he's got a hand in it. So please welcome one of my favorite humans, Tyler Gibbons, to the storyteller stage. Hi, Tyler.
Hi. Hello, friends.
So happy to have you here today. So much fun.
It always makes my day when I get to see Michelle Ledka.
Right back at you, Tyler. Well, let's jump right in here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. This is making my day, seeing you guys reconnecting on the storyteller stage. This is going to be fun.
Oh, so much fun. So many great memories with this guy here. But let's jump right into it. Our first thing we like to do, Tyler, to kick off storyteller on this show is have you fill in the blank for us. So in your opinion, the best stories are blank, blank, and blank.
Access and trust driven. I think those are the two things that make the best stories, because the part that I look at is trying to tell people stories that they don't know and only you have access to. And I think whether your subjects or what you're doing only opens up if they trust you. So that's why content creators are so valuable, in my opinion, because not everybody can do what they do, because not only do you have to be good technically, but you have to have wonderful people skills to actually get the best story out of whatever you're trying to tell.
Absolutely brilliant. And we're going to probably touch on all those a little bit in your answers here today, Tyler. We're also going to do something a little different and fun today and actually break this conversation into 5 main topics that are going to be centered around the words that make up the core values of Real Salt Lake. So we're talking pride, we're talking community, we're talking industry, integrity, and harmony. I'm sure you have them off the top of your mind, but those are the ones we're going to kind of center this conversation around. So first up, let's start with pride. As you look back on your career to date, are there 1 or 2 things you're most proud of? Something that when you're kicking up the feet after a long, successful career, you're going to say, you know what, I'm happy with how that turned out.
Launching the NWSL Royals in less than 100 days.
That's big time.
Yes, for everything that challenges that came with that organization and putting it on. I remember walking into my then CBO's office. He told me it was going to happen. And I was like, sweet. So is this year or 2 down the road? And he's like, no, you got 100 days. And I just started chuckling. I was like, really? Okay. We're just going to make this team, this brand just poof out of nowhere. And he's like, yep. And so I went home, turned off my phone, had the night to myself, and got to work the next day. And, 99 days later, we had 20,000 people here at Rio Tinto Stadium, and Rachel Platten forgot the words to the national anthem. And And it was a wonderful day. And sitting there and reading Deadspin 10 minutes later because Rachel forgot the words and refused to show up to sound check. But seeing the connection that women in our market had with the most popular players that have ever been a part of our club, Becky Sauerbrunn, Kristen Press, Kelly O'Hara, to work with those legends of U.S. soccer on a day-to-day basis and have their number and see the impact that they made here, that's easily at the top of my list because if I could survive 2018, I can do anything. That's kind of my motto in my head after pulling that all off.
I love that. It sets you up perfectly then to take on 2020, right? And everything else that we're dealing with here. But to go off of what you had to say there, I feel like it's the perfect transition to our next core value, Tyler, which is community. Of course, content that you're creating is centered around community and how you can engage that supporters community. But then on the flip side, how the club can support the community as well. So you guys are kind of taking care of each other on both sides. What do you think are the keys to that?
Doing it right and for the right reasons. At the end of the day, what I tell people all the time is nobody cares about me or my budget or how much money I have to spend on X, Y, and Z. All they want is to have a good time and do things the right way. I compare a sports team fandom for how my future mother and father-in-law want to believe in me as I'm dating their daughter. It's inherently they want to believe I'm good. They just, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to open the car door. I'm going to pay for dinner, et cetera, et cetera. It's the same thing for a team in a city. They want to make sure, and they will find out in today's social media age, is that if you have something to hide, they will uncover it. And if it's not good, they will let you know about it. All they want you to do is put a good product out there and represent the city as well as possible, because you are, at the end of the day, a big flag representing Salt Lake or Utah or Seattle. And that is, something that we should all take pride in, that we should all kind of hang our hats on, because at the end of the day, nobody would have a job like mine, if 20,000 people didn't show up and support the people kicking soccer balls.
Favorite activation where you really feel like you succeeded in this?
The supporters secondary kit launch that we did last year. Basically, we designed a kit for our supporters, in honor of our supporters. And we went out of our way to get them involved in the design process, went out of our way to get them involved in the marketing and promotion. And then for everything to turn out as well as it did, Adidas used us as basically an example for how teams should run their kind of kit promotion and launches. And so that's the thing off the top of my head. And then this year, we're doing another kit in honor of them called the Believe Kit, which is kind of in honor of the 10-year anniversary of our famous Believe chant. And so so pair those two together, I think that's what truly matters, is, recognizing the people that hold you near and dear to their heart and how you can repay them, because they'll never forget a simple gesture like sending a player to meet a fan for the first time, or giving the shirt off their back, or helping out with a Special Olympics, fundraiser because, somebody falls on hard times. Like, at the end of the day, and I keep saying at the end of the day now that I'm noticing it, that's what you want to do. You want to make lifelong fans. You want to have people care about your products in 24/7, 365, not just on the Saturdays that they show up to your stadium.
I love that, the 24/7 approach, where you can create these moments and understand that they're not just supporting you on Saturday or whatever day of the week there might be the match, but they're there with you through thick and thin every day of the week. So I think that's really cool. And when Adidas is calling you out, you're probably doing something right on that front.
Yeah.
So now for let's get into one of my favorite topics, and that's the industry. I saw a quote actually from one of your colleagues, Emma Kramer, in a Beyond the Match article on 2022 industry trends. And she said something that I thought was really cool, and it was that she thinks we're going to see a shift from brands creating content with athletes to brands creating content for athletes. So how is RSL going to pull that off?
It's something that we've done for a long time because they're our biggest billboards. They're our biggest advocates. Team player, fans fall in love with teams and players, not the laundry in the club. And so, I think what you've seen in the college level with the NILs and the deals and the creative programs that you have at like Clemson and Texas. Kids are 16, 17 doing recruiting visits and having full media day shoots when they show up. And so this is something where the generation behind me, which is my rock star, Emma Kramer, who is my digital director. And as I tell her, she's a better version of me all the time. And she doesn't know how good she is quite yet.
I can actually attest to that. He's said that to me on more than one occasion. Yeah. So Emma, if you're listening, he's not just saying that for this podcast. I've heard this before. Continue, Tyler. Had to get that in there.
She's fantastic, and she's going to rule the digital space at some point soon. But they grew up with social media in a way that I don't think we're fully prepared and ready for, because our generation went with it in a little way with MySpace and Facebook. But for these athletes that are 16, 17 and basically to 25, like, it's always been an inherent part of their lives. And so they understand it, they use it in different ways. And, if you give something to an athlete, they might have more followers than the club itself, and people are going to attach themselves to that more so than what the club puts out. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo or Mbappe or those guys, like, that's just kind of smart, and it's a big advocate for your brand and what you're trying to sell, because people are more likely to believe the Tom Brady's of the world versus, the Tampa Bay Bucks. And he's another wonderful example of somebody that jumped onto Facebook and Twitter in the last handful of years, and his creation and his content's pretty excellent.
No doubt about it. And so we hear kind of what you're doing on the digital side. I know you wear many hats, and part of that's the game presentation side. So what about in venue? I know you guys use tag board, but what is the focus when it comes to engaging fans? We talk 24/7, but what about when you have them in your stadium? How are you engaging with them?
Well, soccer is different because there's no timeouts. What we have noticed is kind of a shift in attention span and being able to utilize the boards in a way where people aren't necessarily watching them, so you can use them as basically big, bright, flashing signals when we need them to pay attention to. So, for example, a new tradition that we're starting is scarves up at 8:01. 8:01 is the area code of Utah. And so at the 8-minute mark and the 80th minute mark, our entire stadium will hold up their scarves just for a minute in honor of Utah, where we're at. And to start that tradition, well, we got to notify everybody on the big board. So there won't be any TV cameras on the live action play when the Seattle Sounders come into town on March 5th at the 8th minute and 80th minute. It'll all be kind of queuing up, hey, guys, you need to pay attention to this, and then everybody will go from there. Same thing for our chants with our supporters. Same thing with a few different kind of nuggets that I'm going to keep in my back pocket for March 5th. But I think that's the whole point is people are there to enjoy themselves. Soccer is much like baseball, where while there's something always happening in front of you as a fan in the stadium, it's also something that's more of a social event, a little bit more casual, where you can hang out with your friends, you can go to the concession stand, buy a beer, that type of thing. So you got to be able to enhance the in-stadium product by keeping people entertained and making it easy for them to understand what you're trying to do with directional signage or just cues.
You heard Tyler there mention about the Seattle Sounders coming to town to take on Real Salt Lake. And that's just a friendly rivalry between me and Tyler. For those of you who don't know, I also serve on the Sounders FC broadcast team when I'm not busy at tag board. So on those match days, of course, Tyler and we're still friends. We just... we root our separate ways. But speaking of TV in that sense, just continuing on with this industry talk, Tyler, your background is in TV. My background's in TV. You work with the pre and post match show and the broadcast. How do you work really on trying to engage fans there? Because as we know, fans always can't make it to a match. And especially with 2020 and on, a lot more fans are tuning in, be a broadcast, be it digitally or linear, and watching on air as opposed to in person these days.
So, since we're talking the industry, what I'll say is basically Seattle, Portland, Atlanta, and Real Salt Lake have figured out how to maximize their TV product. And they're the only ones that get decent ratings in the entire league. And there's a few key things that I see that connects all of them. One's an outstanding product from a director, producer, and talent side of things. 2 is a dedicated fan base, and 3 is accessibility. For us, our product, we're the only club in the entire league that makes their games available for free, over the air, local streaming, and on radio. So every other team in the entire league, like in Portland, you have to own a cable subscription to see Root Sports. For Seattle, they have the Amazon tie-in where you got to have money for the local tie-in over there. In Atlanta, same thing, subscription. So for us, it's, we're about 100,000 people are going to consume our product for free, which expands the brand because there's different financial realities for people in Ogden or people in Salt Lake City where they're diehards. They love the team, they love the club, they love the culture, but they can't make it to 17 games a year due to financial restraints. And so the way that we've countered that is just by making sure that we're available for everyone, no matter your social economic status. And then to engage fans in that, I've got a crazy psycho named Brian Dunseth, who is a wonderful, terrific talent. And I honestly think he's the best color person in soccer in this country has to offer. But he has a unique skill set where he can literally tweet and call a goal all at the same time and interact with a fan and have 7 different conversations going. And we've been leaning into that for years. Like there's a Drink with Dunny game. There's a Dunny bingo game. There's tag board involved. We have a lower third scroll where if you have a funny tweet with the right hashtag, we put you up in the middle of the game. We highlight you and at halftime, post-game, pre-game. And then when people see Dunny interacting and then the club interacting on these platforms, that kind of creates a buzz and gets people organically involved, and it just kind of snowballs from there. So we've been doing it since 2013, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger each year. And I don't think anybody but Dunny can pull it off because I've seen other people try. But I will, I'm going to ride that bicycle until the 2
And Dunny, I do know Dunny. He is a special and incredibly talented individual. If you haven't checked him out on social media, make sure and give him a follow as well. He's definitely entertaining. And if you're not into soccer, he will get you into soccer. Well, we are 3 core values down now. And we've got 2 to go. But first, it's time for a little tag board trivia. So grab that phone, everybody. Get it out. We know you have it. And get ready to scan the QR code you see on your screen to complete in Tag Board Trivia Real Salt Lake edition. And then we'll catch you on the other side of the 90-second break. Welcome back from Trivia. If you're just joining us, we're catching up with Tyler Gibbons, VP of Marketing and Game Presentation at Real Salt Lake, and we've been discussing the organization's core values. And up next is integrity. Now, I think it was about a decade ago when a Utah punk rocker crafted a chant for the club titled Believe. Now, Tyler, you mentioned Ted Lasso and Believe earlier in the show, but I need to know, did Ted Lasso reach out to you and ask for permission to use Believe as the rallying cry for AFC Richmond?
Well, absolutely not, because Jason Sudeikis is from Kansas City, so he's a Kansas City fan. You know?
Wow.
Yeah,
the truth comes out. The truth comes out.
Well, what I'm going to do for those wonderful human beings is I'm actually going to invite all the women on the show to come out in July. And so when they play Kansas City. So hopefully we have a Believe theme night. We've already started that whole process because you see them hopping around LAFC here and there. So hopefully I've never seen the women actually get invited. So I've extended an invite to them. See if they'll come in the summertime.
I love
that's
that.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
Maybe
incredible.
we might have to make a little trip too, Sky, for that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Little storyteller on location.
That's it. It's done. Book it.
I got 2 tickets with your names on them. You just let me know when you're going to be here.
Perfect. And now, Tyler, I know you know this as our long history proves, but when it comes to storytelling, it's so important to develop and maintain a brand voice and sticking throughout it on all the content of your post. You kind of talked about it earlier about how you've jumped around from digital to in-venue to broadcast, all this kind of stuff. What advice can you give to others out there who are working to develop a voice for their brand?
Over communicate. Like at the end of the day, the biggest front-facing platform you're going to have is social media, but that doesn't mean that it needs to act differently than how you present yourself everywhere else. And so my thing with my group is I always say, what's our goal? What's the end goal? And then let's start there and work backwards. And I think once you actually understand what you're trying to accomplish, it's pretty simple, the steps that you need to take to get to that end goal. And so we've cleaned up the brand a million times over. And oh my goodness, I'm so old, 9 years now. Wow. Holy cow. And we're actually at a place where we understand who we are and what the community needs us to be. And as we're going through the RSL Way document that my friend Tony Beltran and I put together last year, I think that was we put a flag in the ground and said, this is who we are. And it's no secret that RSL had a lot of bad news in the past few years for things that were out of our control. And so to kind of reel everything back in and kind of tear things down to the foundation and build it back up from there with this new ownership group, that was really important for us, is to know what actually do we want to stand for. And I encourage every brand, every team, every organization to do the same thing, because once you identify who you are, then you can kind of say whether or not certain things meet your standards.
Beautifully
I think
said.
that's absolutely beautiful, and also plays into the final core value. Once you understand who you are, you need harmony, and over communicating, make sure everyone's on the same page to make sure that voice comes to fruition and stays consistent throughout everything you're doing across all your channels. So in the name of harmony, though, I want to go a different direction. We talk about how it's critical to success in the workplace, on the soccer pitch, in life, but also maybe no greater harmony than the relationship between person and their pet, more specifically person and their dog. And I saw a post, Tyler, the other day that you were fostering another dog. And then I read deeper and read that you and your partner had fostered 75 dogs. And that was an article that was written, I think, last year. So I'm sure that number is even higher now. How did you get into fostering dogs? I think it's incredible. And when I bring it up, is there like a story, like a first story that comes to mind about the whole experience?
Yeah, the first story that comes up was what we went through last year or 2 Thanksgivings ago. My partner is the heartbeat behind the project, let's put it that way. She got me involved when we first started seeing each other, way back in the Stone Age, since we're so old. And it's something that there's lots of ways to give back to the world. It's just the way that we choose to give back to just civilization in general. There's animals everywhere that need love and care and to be taken care of. And at the end of the day, they couldn't do anything, and most of them wouldn't survive without us. And where we live in rural areas of farming land and also the Indian reservations, there's a lot of animals that just, we have traps that we set out that we collect and then bring to no-kill shelters, chip them up, feed them, love them, teach them how to be dogs, and find their forever homes. And so we had one animal named Dolly, after Dolly Parton, because she had a very big belly, and it looked as if we were told she had just had puppies. And I was like, wow. Yeah, like she's still, like, you could see milk in there and all that kind of stuff. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to go up to Bear Lake, which is about 2 hours from here, and we're going to go and enjoy Thanksgiving, and then we'll leave Dolly with our neighbors who are really good friends, and we'll be back in 3 days. Well, I drove up the night before Thanksgiving. The morning of Thanksgiving, I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from our neighbors, and they're like, well, I don't think Dolly just had puppies because she's got 2 on the floor right now. And so I drove back home Thanksgiving morning, and she ended up having 10 puppies. And we converted our office. It was during COVID times, and we weren't doing anything anyways, and it was the off season. And so I slept on the floor for a week, making sure the puppies survived. So we raised those puppies for 8 weeks and got them all fostered out and in their forever homes. And I think if I can do that, then I can definitely raise a little baby here in about 4 months. So
that's so cool. If you can do that, you can raise a baby, you can redesign a stadium. Like that's really incredible work. So I just applaud you and your partner and through all that, because as a big dog lover myself, I think that's just the coolest thing in the world.
And as you guys have just heard it here, a huge congratulations, obviously, to Tyler and his partner, Amanda. They've recently gotten engaged. They're expecting their first child. And I hope you can see by this last story and all of this, really, why Tyler is literally one of my most favorite humans. Just all around amazing. Everything you do on the pitch, in the stadium, to the puppies, just, so great. And just really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Well, anything for the Lutka family. If they ever call, I'm there. That's one of my rules. And so whenever anybody in my favorite place in the PNW needs anything, I will always answer.
That's too good. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're very busy, not with fostering just dogs, a baby on the way, fiance, but also the season opener is on the 27th. First home opener, as you mentioned a few times, March 5th. So best of luck this season. We'll be keeping an eye on all the storytelling, and it's going to be a good season for you guys. So good luck.
Thank you so much for having me, Sky and Michelle. Appreciate it.